Well, hello, Karen. How are you? Thank you for joining me. I'm happy to see you too. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, just be real. I made it. Hey, Miss J. Okay, let me get my lighting right. Okay, give me just a second. Let me get my lighting together. All right, that'll work over here. Well, thank you for being from Canada, Brunswick, Canada. Hey there, how are you? I wish I was able to bring my Instagram up a little higher, but that's all right. That's okay. How is everybody doing? All righty. Hey, Dr. Hooper, how are you? I was going to say sir. I know what you said about the sir. I'm not going to call you sir. Dr. Hooper, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Okay, let me put my glasses on so I can see all the letters. So I can see what I'm reading. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Thank you so much for asking. You watching football tonight? I remembered. Let me get my glasses on. All right, so I can see everybody. You did? Oh, so it's over for the evening. Hey there, Shark Tooth. How are you? What an awesome name. What an awesome handle. Oh, I got you to myself. All right, let me put my peepers on so I can see you guys. How's everybody doing tonight? Hi, DFresh79. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. You see, okay, good. Thank you so much. Please forgive me. I've been on the road. I had to call. I had to text. Just be real. Let her know I was coming. I was coming. Is that Jamal? Jamal? Hey, Jamal. How are you? Well, I'm glad you're catching me live too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, I always say the same thing, right? Hey, Danielle, how you doing? I always say the same thing. I always say I'm not going to be on long. Let me turn this down a little bit. Hold on. All right, and make sure I don't break this. Okay, there we go. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys for coming in. Every time I come in on Sundays, I just got off the road, so I got myself some coffee. So we can have a little discussion. We can have a talk, all right? So let's go ahead and get started. You know, I know you guys you waited this long to come on, so let me just start talking, right? You do say that. I do say that, don't I? And then I get into my conversation, and when I get into my conversation, it's a really great conversation. So it's hard for me to stop the conversation until you guys make me get off the camera. But I understand. All right, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Carmen Bryant. I am the host of Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. A lot of you have been following me since probably I was going to say 2000, probably 2018. And 2018, I think, when I started doing videos, of course, and then I began doing annual conferences. And my very first conference was in Dallas, Texas in 2021. Oh, thank you, Danielle. But my very first conference was in Dallas, Texas in 2021, where I had the honor and the privilege of meeting Danielle and Just Be Real. I had the opportunity to meet everybody, and it was such an honor, such a pleasure. And I thank you so much for the friendship. all these years of friendships, and I'm grateful. Thank you guys so much. You guys make my job easier, and it is beautiful when we connect and create families. So we create families, and that's the honor. And then I think the next year we went to Atlanta. We was going to do California, but many people prefer to just do it online. And so when we did it online, we started doing it online, and everybody just started coming online. And we started doing our annual conferences online. And then a lot of you, I met you guys right after I started doing my conferences annually. My mother started doing her conferences annually, and her very first conference was in Hawaii. And if you guys missed that, that was beautiful. That was so beautiful. Hawaii. And then after Hawaii, we did Chicago, Dallas, Dallas again. And then this year, next year, we are going to be in Kansas City, Missouri. So if you don't come to my conference online, well, I hope you do, and then you meet us in person in Kansas City, Missouri. And those of you that also know me from TikTok, I do Car Chronicles. Well, since my daughter has went off to college, I have no reason to drive to my other office, so I work from home a lot, and so I usually don't sit in the car anymore. But I still do Car Chronicles, but as you know, as I promised, I am putting together my coaching institute. I know you guys are waiting. Dr. Hooper, I know. Well, where is it at? I also have to finish up my taxes. So I'm finishing up my taxes, and then I'm finishing up my classes so I can offer you the module. It is coming. I promise you guys it's coming. It is coming. Just give me a few weeks, maybe like a week. Give me about a week or two so that I can start advertising it, so we can do the free webinar, so I can introduce the Coaching Institute to you to see what I will be offering to you for coaching, coaching the Coaching Institute, okay? And so I am, tonight I wanted to talk about something that I got into it. Let me turn down my music a little bit. I had a little music, soft music playing in the background, but the music is going to distract me. So give me just a second. Let me turn it off, okay? Okay, I want to stay focused. And I had soft music playing in the background, and I was liking it. It sounded really very relaxing. I don't want to fall asleep while I'm talking. All right, so I came up with this topic. Some of you guys see the topic that I came up with, and the topic is like those unsolicited, the power of those unsolicited words and opinions, of people that have never been in a narcissist relationship, those that really don't understand what a trauma bond is. And I'm gonna give you an example. And my daughter and I, my oldest daughter and I, we usually have some really good discussions about topics. And sometimes me and Just Be Real have conversations, and I come up with different topics. But her and I were having some discussions, and this is something that I hear on a continuous basis. A lot of time when I'm talking to clients in therapy, when I'm talking to friends and family, when I'm having general discussions with people, we just have a conversation. And it almost is like scratching the chalkboard with your fingernail. When I hear people say this, most people are not trauma informed. Most people are not trauma informed. They don't understand the power of a trauma bond. They don't even understand what a narcissist is, or a person that has a pathological, or a pathological or psychopathic problem. Those that have mental illnesses or mental diseases, they really don't understand what it is like to be in and I don't say relationship, I say situationship with that individual, because that is actually not a relationship. That is a very one-sided situationship, and there's only one person that has empathy, the ability to put their feet in their shoes or in somebody else's shoes and feel the pain of other people. That doesn't mean that you literally feel the pain, but to be able to step in your shoes and to be able to empathize with you on situations that you're going through. And when you are dealing with a narcissist, and do understand that everybody is not a narcissist. It just so happened that my topic and my channel is focused around those people that have narcissistic personality disorder. And what I try to do is I try to bring, because I am a therapist, a lot of the things that I do understand is on a clinical, conversation or clinical terminology. And so what I try to do is I take that clinical terminology and I try to translate it into common day English, layman examples or words, but I try to put it into very basic conversations, basic, hold on just a minute. There we go. Hold on, let me get the lighting. But so I try to put it in very layman terms. I try to put it in examples, real life examples of things that you may have been going through. That's just like going to college or going to school, and you get information, you get the knowledge, you get the education, and you pass with a 4.0 or 4.5 or 5.6.0, whatever you graduate with, right? But you can take that knowledge, but you have to be able to apply knowledge. You have to be able to apply that knowledge to a real life situation. And a lot of times when we talk about narcissists, we can talk about what that narcissist does, and we can talk about the clinical part of it, and what it sounds like, what it looks like, what it sounds like or what it is. But sometimes we need kind of that visual of what it looks like, right? And in these situations, those that have never been in a narcissist, hey, Kamira, but those that have never been in a relationship with a person that has narcissistic personality disorder, or those that are on the cluster B, narcissist, borderline, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. You have antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and all of them feed into each other. And so the cluster Bs, all of them feed into each other. And, under the pathological love relationship, under the Institute of, I should have wrote it down before I got on here. I got so excited about the conversation, but under Sandra Brown, Dr. Sandra Brown, under her Institute of, she does the pathological love relationships. She does the education on that. And her institute educates people about pathological love relationships. These are very abnormal relationships, and the individuals 9 times out of 10 do not just have one diagnosis. They don't have one personality disorder. That's one of the things they have found in their studies, over 30 years of study, that they don't have just one personality disorder. We say narcissistic personality disorder, but there are other personality disorders that they also have along with that, and other diagnoses. And so if you've never been in a relationship or a situationship with a narcissist, you look at it as a common, and when I say common, I don't mean normal, a common domestic violent type relationship. And if you look at it as a domestic violent relationship and apply most of the domestic violence, and I don't, please know, we don't want to get rid of any type of domestic violence, the YWCA domestic violence program. We don't want to get rid of that, because that is the foundation of helping people get out of their situations. Many years of helping people, helping women and children get out of these type of relationships. And you don't really hear a lot about the men, but we don't want to get rid of that program. However, that program does not talk about the pathological or the psychopathy, meaning mental diseases or mental illnesses of those that cannot change. The way that it is set up is to teach women, what the domestic violence, what the power and control cycle is, about domestic violence, get them help, and then hold that perpetrator accountable, give them anger management, give them therapy, whatever they need, and then start to integrate the families back together. Well, when you're dealing with a person that has narcissistic personality disorder, or those with this type of pathology or psychopathy, the one thing that they're learning, and judges even know, is that when you put them into anger management, they're learning how to do, how to do what they're doing without getting caught. Now they have words. So when you send them to therapy, a lot of times when you're sending them to therapy, they're also learning terminology or clinical terminology. They also like to go in and try to dominate the therapist. That's why I don't deal with those that have personality disorders. I only deal with survivors and victims of narcissist abuse. And so you have family and friends, that mean well, but they get angry because they really don't understand the trauma that you have experienced by being in a situation with these individuals. So they don't understand what a trauma bond is, and the reason why I say this is because my daughter and I was having a conversation, and one of the things she said, and I hear this over and over again, is when people tell you, just shake it off. Just get out the situation. Well, you can't blame anybody but yourself, because you chose to stay in that relationship. You had kids by this person. You chose to stay that long, when they really don't understand that you really have been held hostage by your emotions and the chemicals in your brain. You have been addicted to a person. You're addicted to a person. You're addicted to how you have been positive and negative reinforcement. That's what they use to hold you hostage in a relationship. And most people say, you weren't held hostage. You could have walked out that door at any time. It's not that easy. That's just like that's just like telling a person that is addicted to meth, or that's addicted to fentanyl, or that's addicted to drugs and alcohol, just put it down and leave it alone. Just stop smoking, stop sniffing, stop using. You need to stop. For those that may not be in the mental health field or chemical dependency field, you don't tell a person that is addicted to drugs and alcohol, just stop, just quit it. In that case, it would be easy for anybody to get off of substances, right? Anybody could get off of chemicals, right? Okay, well, that's the same thing when you're dealing with a person that is addicted to another person, because it is possible. There's this hormone, I think it's a hormone, chemical, called oxytocin. Oxytocin is released, for example, when a mother has a baby. It is the bonding agent, it's a bonding chemicals. And that oxytocin is released. And when the mother breastfeeds and holds the baby near her, that oxytocin is released, and it creates a bond between mother and child. Now, you have to keep in mind that those people that have some type of personality disorders, sometimes it may not even be a personality disorder. Sometimes they may have some type of mental illnesses. They may have some type of brain damage, traumatic brain damage, and sometimes that they don't have the empathy. They don't have the ability to connect to other people, even to a baby. But the average person that does not have a issue with chemical, and when I say chemical imbalances, I mean like issue with empathy or something going on in their brain. They have the ability, they release that oxytocin. And when they release that oxytocin, they breastfeed, they hold the baby, they create a bond. That's the same chemical that bonds you to drugs and alcohol. That's the same chemical that bonds you to drugs and alcohol. Then when you're dealing with a narcissist, remember, it also affects your serotonin and your dopamine. It also affects your amygdala, and it also causes damage to your frontal lobe. A lot of you are dealing with brain fog. When you deal with brain fog, it's like you can't clearly think. You can't remember where you put this. You can't remember where this was. And in the midst of the idealization and the discard, in between that, they're gaslighting. And in that gaslighting, they have you walking on eggshells. They play these word games with you. They cause you to start questioning your reality. You start questioning your reality. I knocked on the door. Did I really knock on the door? How are you feeling? I'm feeling great. Are you sure you're feeling great? You don't look like you're feeling great. Then you start questioning yourself, like, well, maybe I am giving off some type of aura, or maybe I'm not feeling good. Do I feel good? You start questioning yourself, so that gaslighting will cause you to get confused, because right is wrong, wrong is right. They even question your education. They'll have you questioning everything about yourself. So bad that even when they come around, you get triggered. You can start overeating. You can start, overeating. You can start anxiety attacks. You start having nightmares. This is how bad it can get. And let me get a little deeper. When you have somebody, for example, a prisoner of war, and I'm gonna show you just how this works. There's positive and negative reinforcement. Let me just start at that first. The positive and negative reinforcement. The way that they operate is they want what they want, disregarding how you feel about what it is they want. When they want something, they'll figure out any kind of way to get what they want, even if it means manipulating you, emotionally manipulating you, making you feel bad about the decision that you made. You feel guilty for saying no. So a lot of times the biggest problem that you're having is you have a problem with saying no, and they make you feel guilty for having boundaries. So when you set up boundaries, it's amazing how a person that doesn't have boundaries is so offended at the fact that you have boundaries and you tell them no. How dare you tell me no? Now what they'll do is all the things that you have shared with this person, you didn't create a what we call it, you build rapport with people. So when you get to know people, that's why I tell people within 6 to 12 months of being with a person, if you are dating, you'll start seeing the mask fall, because all of us wear masks. When you meet somebody, you wear a mask, you are on your best behavior. on your best behavior, you're showing your calling card, you're showing your brand. And when I say you are your brand, you are showing the best part of you because you are trying to attract this person to you, or this person is trying to attract you to them. So they're on their best behavior. If you're around there for 6 to 12 months, you'll begin to see their character. You'll begin to see if what you're seeing is consistent or not consistent. How do they act when you guys go out to eat? It may not be just you and them going out to eat. You may just go as a group or something like that. How do they act when they go out to eat? How do they treat the waiter when they are disappointed, or if they are but if you are let me see. If you are what was I saying? I had distracted. I apologize. But if you are what was I saying, y'all? Because I don't have any moderators over on Instagram. So I don't have any moderators over on Instagram. So I apologize. I know, just be real. I need to get you onto Instagram as well. Please forgive me. I lost my train of thought. I did not mean to lose my train of thought. But what was I saying? I was talking about, the positive and negative reinforcement. So, but when you meet somebody, it's, if you're dating or you're going out with somebody, watch how they handle the waitresses. If they're upset about how their food has come out, or how they have been served, or something like that, watch how they handle the waiters. Watch how they talk. Do they humiliate them? How do they handle the people that you consider the least to them? The janitors. Think about it, the janitor has the key to the whole building. You get locked out, the janitor is the only one that can get anybody in that building. So you might want to, if they have a janitorial service, you better be nice to them, because they're the ones that make sure that your place is clean, it is presentable, your bathrooms are clean. They're the hardest working people in that building. How do they handle the janitor, the person that they consider the least? Not you, they. How do they handle, their mother? How do they handle their father? What type of, when they talk about their ex-husbands or their ex-wives or ex-girlfriends or baby mamas or baby dads or whatever, what do they say about them? Do you notice do you notice that in their characteristics? I don't know if you have the ability to block or remove comments or anything like that. Just be real. Instagram, I need to make sure you do, so I'm not sure. But usually 6 to 12 months, you'll begin to see, sometimes you'll see that mask fall faster, right? But during that time where they're trying to impress you, during that idealization stage, they're not actually, you're building rapport with people. So when we get to know each other, we are building rapport. I want to know what your boundaries are, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. We're getting to know each other. So, as we're discussing things, we are determining what the boundaries are, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. And eventually the mask will start slipping off because you begin to trust that person a little bit. Well, a narcissist does not try to build rapport. A narcissist interrogates. They interrogate because they want you to tell them all your secrets, to what your kryptonite is. And that kryptonite could be things like, I don't like when somebody ignores me. I don't like to be called names. I don't like to be ignored. I don't like to be ghosted. I don't like, this is what happened in my life. That's why sometimes we talk too much. I don't like. Sometimes you have to let people discover you, get to know you, watch you. And, and if they ask questions, you answer the question, but don't go overboard with telling too much information. Well, with that information, the way that they build that trauma bond is now it becomes this, what's the word that I use? It is the, it's not the grooming, but it's that positive and negative reinforcement. And so the positive and negative reinforcement is, if I can't get what I want, all the things that when I came into the picture, I made sure you gave me your kryptonite so that I can look like your Superman or your Superwoman. And I wanted to do everything you said that you don't like. It's almost like I'll go overboard with it to make sure that that I'm the one, because I'm finding the character that I'm going to play in your life. But when I don't get what I want from you, and what they'll do is test it. They'll do little things to start testing you. For example, you go to a restaurant and you say that you're a vegan. I don't eat meat. I don't eat any type of animal, so and I said this on the last time I was here. We go out to eat. I tell you that I am a vegan. I'm not. I'm a carnivorous, but I am a vegan. I don't eat any type of meat products, any type of animal, nothing. So in that case, what the person should do is let me find somewhere that serves vegan foods, and let me try, or let me see what it tastes like. Let me try, and let me try vegan. I would like to try, tell me about a good vegan restaurant so that I can, I would like to try, and or if, and next time we can go to another restaurant that also serves vegan, but also serves, unless you are totally appalled by food, vegan food, but but do you notice how there's a balance? Now, what a narcissist will do would just take you to a restaurant without even considering the fact that you were a vegan, and then tell you and start convincing you how wrong you are about being a vegan, or, and ask you that first they want to know about the proteins and this and that and this, and slowly you'll notice that they'll make little jabs, and then they laugh it off, and you're like, that was disrespectful. Oh, you have to get to know me. I just have you have a dark sense of humor, so sometimes, no, check that. Check. What do the kids say? Check that, clock that. That is, clock that. So, but you have to pick up on these little subtle things that they're doing, little subtle things out of disrespect, little subtle things that all of a sudden, that when you catch it, the first thing they do is downplay it, like, oh, don't be sensitive. I'm just joking. You don't have to be sensitive like that. Oh, loosen up. Remember you said, no, when they start doing stuff like that, that's letting you know that they're downplaying the fact that you're sensitive about that, or I don't like that, or that was disrespectful. But you get to a point, and what happens is the way that there's that power and control, or that positive and negative reinforcement, is what they do is they will use, so if you don't give them what they want, they will use that, right? So they will use that to punish you. I will punish you, I will punish you by doing the very thing that you said that you don't like. So if you don't give me what I want, I just won't call you. I'll ignore you. I'll give you silent treatment. I'll do everything that you said. See, now I'm gonna use your kryptonite against you because I know it hurts you. And what I'll do is, this is the narcissist. What I'll do is I'm going to see where it hurts the most, and that's where I'm gonna do it the most. This is what I'll do the most in order to get what I want. When you give me what I want, after I ask, when you give me what I want, I will reward you with attention. I will reward you with affirmation. I will reward you with my time. I will reward you with some flowers or gifts. Then they tap into those love languages. I'll reward you, because I remember this narcissist kept this lady up all night because he wanted a new car. And she said he bought a car every year he bought a new car. That's ridiculous. They were not wealthy, but every year he had to have a new car. And finally, one day she decided, I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm not. He kept her up all night. Every time she tried to turn the light off, he turned the light back on. And all he kept doing was, over and over and over again, he kept giving scenarios and situations that didn't even make sense. When the cuckoo bird flies over the nest and drops the egg, don't you think I should get a new car? Or when Sally met Joe and they ran over the pothole and came back saying kumbaya, and you're looking like, you got to be kidding me. But it's almost like, am I crazy or is this person crazy? But she said that he would do that, and just kept talking and kept talking and kept trying to convince her, to a point where she was so angry that she said, fine. It's like giving in to a child having a temper tantrum. Fine. And he got what he wanted. And when he got what he wanted, he says, I just want you to know how much I love you and I really appreciate you. I know it was a hard decision to make, but I promise you, baby, I'll make sure, if I've got to work 5 jobs, I'm going to make sure I do this, and I'll make it up to you. Don't even worry about it. I know you're tired, but don't even worry about, you get some rest. And she said, I had like an hour left. She said she got up and went, got up and got ready for work. But she was tired all day. He made sure he sent her food and flowers and everything because he got what he wanted. But the minute she didn't show up to sign those paperwork, oh my gosh, she said all hell broke loose. She said he cussed her out. He went off on her. He embarrassed her in front of her kids because he didn't get what he wanted, and she didn't get there on time. So now, having said this, imagine a person that's in prison. And a person that is in prison, you guys, I don't know who's been in prison, who has not been in prison. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that in prison, there's a regiment. They get up at a certain time, they eat, they go back to their rooms, they get exercise, they do whatever, they have lunch, they do whatever, as a regiment, and then lights out, watch TV, lights out at a certain time, read books, go to the library. They have a regiment. There's a structured regiment. And for many people, they know that if they do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they violate something, they go into solitary confinement. A human being cannot be in quiet around nobody. I mean, some of them can. It'll drive them crazy, but they don't want, that's a punishment to them, so they know, so they will reinforce rules and laws by certain things that they would do to take away rights and liberties from a prisoner. And so a lot of people that have been in prison, especially for long periods of time, they come out and either return back into the lifestyle. It's like they self-sabotage to get back into that regiment because that's all they know. That's the only place they ever had medical and food and security and safety. And they get right back, they self-sabotage and end up right back in the only place that they know how to live. Or they come out of prison and they maintain that regiment, and they do the same thing at home. They do the same thing because they have been, they have been trained, that the positive and negative reinforcement, they have been trained, to be some type of citizen out there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now let's go to prisoner of wars. You take a person and make them a prisoner of war, they are tormented. They are brutalized, they are tormented. And so they comply out of fear. And usually your hostage taker or your the person that is holding you hostage uses some type of trauma, some type of fear to maintain control over the person that they're holding hostage. Well, this is the same concept when you are dealing with a narcissist. And then a lot of people, when you say abuse, they're like, he never or she never put her hands on me. It was her mouth. It was his mouth, but they never put their hands on me. Verbal abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. Some people like, just hit me, but stop talking, but a lot of people, you got to think that psychological abuse, what we call narcissist fleas, it leaves a lot of debris in you. And you live your life with the echoes of the past. You live your life with the echoes of a voice that should not matter. But if you dealing with a mother or a father, you're dealing with a wife or a husband that you truly love, you're dealing with children, and for some of us as parents, we have sacrificed for our children. They have no idea what we have done to make sure that these children will be okay, that our kids will be okay. And to them, they look you in the face and say, "You've never done nothing for me. You are a horrible mother. You are a terrible father. You're never there for me." They don't know all the stuff that you had to put up, maybe with a narcissist ex-spouse or spouse. They have no idea. And then you have that spouse that may be a narcissist that is also brainwashing the child. Mental and emotional abuse causes a lot of damage. There you go. And it causes brain damage. Believe it or not, the mental and emotional abuse causes brain damage. Is it repairable? Yes, if you get to it on time. But sometimes what happens is, hey, Ernestine, sometimes it lasts for so long. It takes so long to recover from that. So long. Because people are dealing, get an MRI of your brain. Go speak to a cognitive specialist. It can cause brain damage. Thank you so much, Vishal. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But they don't understand the damage that has been done. And check this out. There was an experiment, and I'm trying to think of the experiment. I can't think of the researcher that did this, but you guys remember is the positive and negative reinforcement. It was called, I can't think of it, but it was the experiment with the dog. I'll think of it as I'm talking, but it was the experiment with the dogs. What happened is you had these dogs that were in cages. I think they were in cages. And what they did is they applied there's electric nodes or electric under the fence underneath the dog. And what happened is they would shock the dogs, and the dogs would jump out to get away from the electrical shocks. They would jump out. These experiments, they would jump out of these. So what happened is they locked the dogs in. I don't know if it was a dog or dogs, but they locked the dogs in and began to shock them. There you go. The Pavlov theory, the Pavlov dogs. It's the Pavlov theory. I can't think of the name of it. I talk about it all the time. I can't believe that I can't believe I can't recall it right now, but it's Pavlov's theory, the Pavlov theory I got it on the tip of my tongue. It starts with a C. Conditioning. It's the conditioning. It's the conditioning, and I can't think of it's the entire word. But Pavlov had a theory about the conditioning, a theory about conditioning. But what it was is they had the electric fence underneath the dogs, and what they did was they locked the dogs in and they shocked the dogs where the dogs could not get out of the cage. And they tried to get out of the cage, but eventually it was learned helplessness. That's what it was, learned helplessness. And what happened was is after a while, the dogs couldn't get out of the cage. And so when the dogs couldn't get out of the cage, eventually they stopped fighting. Pavlov's theory of classical conditioning. Thank you, Danielle. That's what it was. Pavlov theory of classical conditioning. And what it was that learned helplessness. And what happened was is the dogs were getting shocked and they couldn't get out of the cage, so they stopped fighting. So they stood there and just took it. And when they removed the covers or they removed the cages to allow the dogs to escape, they had learned helplessness to a point where when they got shocked, they didn't even try to escape anymore. And that right there is almost like trauma bonding. The trauma bonding. You have been abused, misused, threatened, and fear has become one of the biggest weapons. If you leave, I'm going to take the kids. If you leave, I'm going to alive you and the kids. If you leave, some people have decided that, I'm going to be I don't like to use the term housewife, but a homemaker. They have given their life to being a homemaker, taking care of the home, taking care of the children while the husband made the money. But the thing is with a narcissist, they do it on purpose because you had money coming in, but they did it on purpose so that you can't go anywhere. You don't have anywhere to go. Why do you think they isolate you? They isolate you so you don't have a support system around you, so you can't leave. They make you totally dependent on them, making you think that nobody wants you. See, look at you. You're fat. You're skinny. Or how they say on Color Purple, you're black. You're ugly. And what does she say? I might be black. I might be ugly. But by God, I'm alive. But that's exactly how they act. They act as a god in your life and they isolate you so that you are totally emotionally dependent on them. You're so dependent on them that whatever they say, you just believe it. And they try to make you think that everybody else is a lie. Everybody else is trying to ruin our relationship. Everybody else is trying to interfere. They'll take information. For example, when we say keep people out of your business. When you are in a grown folk relationship, you should not have mama and everybody in your relationship. Your business is your business. That's grown folk business. There are certain things, ladies, you should not be telling your mom or your dad, about your husband. And men know that you just don't talk about your wife to the brothers. Because if you tell too much, those brothers, those same ones that call you their friend, want to know what it is about her, and then they're going to compromise or cross boundaries. So you got to make sure you even vet your friends, make sure that they really are friends, right? But they'll use that. Now, I said that, and most of us understood what that means. Don't tell all your business, ladies. Don't tell all your business, men, right? We understand that. They'll take that and hone in on that until you stop telling all your business. So what happens is you take that as I can't tell anything because I don't want to speak bad of my husband. I don't want to speak bad of my wife. So I'm not going to tell anybody that they're abusing me. So you justify that cognitive dissonance. You kind of justify, we need to make sure that we work this thing out. Or you may even hear the young people. Now, I maybe older people, I've heard this from younger people more. Oh, you a cop caller. So they use some of the situations that they have seen on television that was very heartbreaking, that was very dear and close to us. But they use that. Hi, I am beautiful one. But they use that. They use that and they overuse that. Put it that way. Oh, you a cop caller now. You know that I am a brown, black, Chinese, Vietnamese, such and such man, and that's how you're gonna do me. You see the climate, you see this, you see that, and that's how they manipulate you. So, oh, you a cop caller. So we call cops now. Yes, we call cops if you can't keep your hands to yourself. Yes, we call cops when you abuse me. Yes, we call cops when you are holding me hostage. Yes, we do. But for some people, they have been so tormented and isolated that they just believe what that person says. And then when the person has charm, when that person has charm, when I was looking up the word charm Charm and witchcraft goes very close hand to hand. Charming, charm, spells, or like a person that is very what's the word we're looking for? Not charismatic, charming, but it's almost a manipulative. Hey, Dad, how are you? But it's almost a manipulative. Not all of it, not all of charming is manipulation, but the way that they use it as manipulation. So they use their charm as manipulation, and then you fell in love with them big brown eyes, big blue eyes, big green eyes, big green and blue eyes, big husky that you fell in love, cunning. Yes, but you fell in love with that person, and then they look so sweet, and when they calm down, you remember how wonderful they were and how handsome they are and how beautiful you are. So you are overwhelmed by the physical challenge, the aesthetics. You have, your emotions have taken control. As that cognitive dissonance, your emotions have taken control. And so now you are making decisions based off of emotions, not logic, not wisdom. You are all in your emotions. We got to get you out of the emotions. So now, having said that, now you have family, friends, and people that are around you. Now, I said all that come back and say, you made a choice to stay there. You should have left when you had the opportunity. You could have left anytime you wanted to. Nobody was making you stay. You had kids by this person. You could have left whenever you want to. I don't want to hear you complain because you made a choice. It must not have been that bad because you had kids. It must not have been that bad. You stayed 20, 30 years. No one knows what it is like to be in a situationship with a person that is a predator, a person that is pathological, a person that is psychopathic, or they have a high level of psychopathy, meaning mental illness or mental disease. No one knows what it's like. Think about it. How many people have had family members that have schizophrenia? You watch them and you kind of normalize it because that's family, and you get to know them when they are in their right mind and when they're not. But you have normalized it to a point where when they're in their right mind, when they're not, but you don't know what it's like to be in their head. No one knows what it's like to be a narcissist unless you had narcissistic personality disorder. And most of you do not have narcissistic personality disorder because you have empathy. And because you have empathy, you project your goodness and your good attributes on that person, wondering why they're acting this way. I don't understand how someone can treat someone like this. That doesn't make sense, because I wouldn't, because you are looking at them through the lens of your empathy, from the lens of your good attributes. They don't think like you. They're not like you. Parents, a lot of times, a lot of you may have children with narcissistic traits, or may have the full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. The one thing that a child knows how to do is get into your heart, because they know you love them and they know that you'll do whatever you can to help them or hurt them. A narcissist needs a reaction, and a child, if you're a child, your child wants a reaction. So whether you get angry, if they don't get a positive reaction from you, and they get angry because you won't agree with them about something, then they're going to say a lot of things that is disrespectful. Very, very disrespectful. Very disrespectful, very hurtful, because they want a reaction from you. Parents, that's the same thing with narcissist parents. They're competitive. A lot of them are very competitive. And so they won't give you credit for anything good that you've done, because of the fact that you're making them look bad, because they want to do that, or you're getting too much attention. And so because you're getting too much attention, they'll start competing with you. And when I say competing with you, sometimes competing for the same love interest as you have. The same, and that's sad, because they're too old to be dating people that are your friends. You know what I mean? That's nasty. But there are some people who have said, Dr. C, my mother or my father has dated my friends, trying to be on the same level as me, or they're dressing just like me, or they hang in the same club as I hang in. They try to be around the same crowd that I'm around, and they're old. But when you're dealing with a person that has narcissistic personality disorder, or pathological, you're in a pathological love relationship with a person that has a high level of pathology means some type of disease, disorders, or you have a person that has a high level of psychopathy, or those that you call psychopaths that have mental illnesses or mental diseases. It is inevitable that you will be traumatized by that person. And you have people around that give you unsolicited advice. Thank you, Australia. One day I'm gonna come too. But they give you unsolicited advice. They give you unsolicited opinions. They tell you what you should do and you should just leave. Stop complaining and just go. People don't understand what an addiction is. People don't understand what trauma bonds are. Trauma bonds are hard to break. And the first thing we do as therapists that are trained in this, they have to go after the cognitive dissonance. If we can break that cognitive dissonance, we can help you break that trauma bond. But if we got to get you to change your mind. So to change, to break the cognitive dissonance loop that you're going through, you know it's right. Logically, it's right. You can say it over and over again, but your emotions are so strong that they override good judgment. They override logic. They override wisdom. And so instead of this two opinions, these two opposing opinions fighting on the inside of you, you're wrestling on the inside. I love him, I love her, she's the father of he's the father of my children, she's the mother of my children. When it's good, but this is the emotions talking now. When it's good, and he's a good father, but she's a good mother. We just don't get along. And she's abusive and he's abusive. And yes, he may have stabbed me. And yes, she's run me over with a car. And yes, she's cussed me out in front of my kids and made me feel less than a man. And yes, he has embarrassed me in front of my family and everything. It just means that we don't get along. But they're good parents. How is that a good parent? Let's think about that for a minute. How is that a good parent where a parent will abuse and misuse you in front of your kids, embarrass you in front of your kids? That sets the pace for where your kids are going to go. Either your child is going to be an abuser or your child is going to be abused when they have grown up in a household that is so divided. But in cognitive dissonance, what happened is because you have these two struggling, opposing opinions on the inside of you, you come up with a lie to justify, I'm just going to stay until the kids grow up. Well, God don't like divorces. God don't like nobody getting beat up either. God don't like anybody, those of you that are believers, God don't like anybody getting beat up. You ain't supposed to be abusing or misusing your husband or your wife. You're not supposed to be trying to unalive them. And you want to stay, and you think, what happens is you underestimate what a malignant narcissist will do. And then on top of that, you are setting the pace. Your children are going through, some people have PTSD and some people have complex PTSD. Some of your children have post-traumatic stress disorder. Some of your children have complex PTSD because they're being vicariously traumatized by watching you go through what you go through. The yelling and the screaming, or the cussing and the belittling and the berating and the dishonor, and they're vicariously being traumatized in the house. Some of them got diagnoses of PTSD or complex PTSD because of what they witnessed in their home. And you set a standard by allowing yourself to go through what you went through. And when I say allowing, I don't mean allowing, but not sitting and making a decision. Sometimes it takes a while to break an addiction. Sometimes it takes a while before you can get out, but at least talk to somebody, at least say something to somebody, where somebody can help you, where somebody can talk to you. I remember talking to a chemical dependency counselor, because I was working just about 15, 16 years ago. And I was working with a young lady who had been addicted to meth for a long period of time. And what she said is that the best counselor that she had in chemical dependency was one that had been addicted to meth themselves, because they didn't let her get away with nothing. And when I spoke to that chemical dependency counselor, she said the reason why I'm so persistent, but the reason why I'm so, why I'm so patient is because somebody had to be patient with me. And I understand, if you look it up, it takes about 7 relapses to finally get free of the addiction to meth. And that was her story. She said it takes about 7 relapses, maybe 7 times to be totally free from a meth addiction. She said, so I understand relapse. She said, and that's why I'm patient, because somebody was patient with me. And so when you have family and friends that mean well, sometimes they get frustrated because you keep talking about the same thing over and over again. You keep ruminating over and over again. You're ruminating. So you keep telling the story over and over and over again. And really what you need to do is get yourself a good trauma professional where you can go and talk it out, talk the story out. Because a lot of times, believe it or not, when you're ruminating or when you keep on repeating the story over and over and over again, I can't believe this, and this time he did this and this, what you're trying to do is convince yourself it's not you and it's them. So a lot of times you're trying to convince yourself, not the people around you. And well, sometimes you are trying to convince the people around you. And sometimes people around you are already convinced. But really, you're trying to convince yourself, I'm not crazy. I know there's nothing wrong with me. Not like that. Am I crazy? Is something wrong with me? Because you've been gaslighted. And so that's all I have to say about that. Now, if you guys want to ask me some questions, ladies, Danielle, just be real. If you give me about 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. Please don't ask me about my glasses, my hair, my makeup. Don't ask me something about what we just talked about tonight. Let me know that you were paying attention. But ask me a question or just say something about, what I talked about tonight. Okay? Talk to me. Say something. Yeah, stick to the topic. Because that's a lot of focus. That's a lot of focus. Peace and Reason says, I mainly deal with the rumination, toxic work syndrome. So your toxicity is at work. Is being a narcissist a learned behavior? No, it is a personality disorder. It is a personality disorder. Yeah, okay. So you're dealing with a toxic work environment. It's funny because I was just the other day I was jotting some notes down, Peace and Reasons, and I'm getting ready to open up a coaching institute, and the coaching institute also, for those people that want to be like business coaches, that want to work with like businesses, business coaches, corporate coaches and stuff. One of the things that I was thinking about was a lot of the training that I had received as a leader when I was in the United States military. And a lot of the training we did a lot of leadership training, and it was called, Dr. Hooper, I know you know what I'm talking about. It was the NCO, is it NCOPD or DP? It was Non-Commissioned Officer Development Program, or Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development. That's what it was. It was non-commissioned, you know what, Danielle? It was the Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development. And we would go once a month and we would get training from our senior leaders about how to treat personnel, how to create a non-toxic environment, counseling, promotions, coaching, basically, promotions, how to treat people, how to prevent from having a toxic work environment. And so it's funny that you happen to say that. Not funny, haha, but it's just ironic that you happen to say that, because that's one of the things for the business coaches, the training that I was also going to do about toxic work environments, toxic managers, toxic supervisors, toxic peers. And so I'm glad you said that. Toxic culture in the workplace. I'm in a good place now, but the trauma still haunts me. Peace and Reason, that's one of the reasons why I was going to implement a lot of that training into my coaching program for people that are wanting to be business coaches, corporate coaches and business coaches, in order to bring more order into the workplace, to bring more empathy, communication, because this is the same thing that we used to do in the military. This is the training that we used to get, and I want to provide that training, to the public too. Are narcissists capable of not cheating? If you have a cheater, they're going to be a cheater. There are narcissists, though, that don't cheat. Believe it or not, that don't cheat. They're because of perhaps the role that they play, the environment that they're in. There are some narcissists that, like, say, in ministry, not all, but there are some that are in ministry, or pastors, or leaders within ministry, or leaders in certain organization where the culture demands you to, and some of them don't cheat. There are some that have paraphilic disorders, which means like pedophilia or like voyeurism or stuff like that, that are attracted to a specific type of youth, young people, or certain things, but not, and some narcissists are appalled. And so you do have narcissists that don't cheat, but are just as abusive. So you just take that out, they don't cheat. And then there are some that if they're cheaters, they're going to be cheaters. That's what they are. So if they're going to be cheaters, they're cheaters. They're not going to stop cheating. That's what they do. That's a part of their character. Then you have some that have the paraphilic disorders, that do what they do. That's why you watch your kids, ladies. Some of them are not trying to get in a relationship with you. They're preying on your kids. So you got to be careful nowadays. And that's male and females alike. You said yours hacks all your Google accounts and stalks me. There is somewhere you can report that. And I'm not sure who, but there is somewhere you can report that, Stardust Angel. There's somewhere you can report that. I can't think. If I think of it, I'm going to post it. If you follow me on Facebook, when I think of how, excuse me, I will post that, okay? I will post that. Yeah, most of them do cheat and look for new supply all the time. Absolutely correct. Well, thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, let me see. You may want to contact your internet provider and ask them, about that. Let me see. The questions are going really fast. So if you got long questions, I may not be able to read them because they're going real fast, okay? So you said, Mr. No One, are there early signs of narcissism? Does it start to develop in a person teenage years? So for most people, when you're looking at little kids, their behavior is very narcissistic in nature. That does not mean that they are a narcissist, but most of them are very selfish, competitive, mine, they don't have empathy because empathy is something that you teach them. When you teach them like, no, you don't hit nobody. That's an owie. Do you want someone to hit you? Don't it make you cry? And as you're teaching them, well, you remember when so-and-so did that? Remember you were crying? So, you're teaching them empathy. There, a lot of times you do miss some of the signs where it seems like the child, because now it's getting younger and younger. And in the studies under Sandra Brown, I think she did say that now it's becoming younger and younger where there are more signs of narcissism in a child at a younger age, because according to the DSM, I don't think we diagnose narcissistic personality disorder until I think they're like 19, because a lot of the behaviors are kind of common behaviors for development of children. But you can start noticing, though, a lot of times it seems like that child has no empathy. Like they purposely want to see people hurt, or they purposely get a thrill off of seeing someone in pain, or seeing, or setting you up, or saying like really negative, ugly things to you and stuff. But there are signs, there are signs, and parents, don't ignore that. Pay attention to that, uh but sometimes it seems like they don't have any emotions, like there's no connection. Now I don't mean autism, because there's a difference, but sometimes those symptoms are almost similar, but you can't really point your finger on it, but there's some cruelty behind it. Let's see. Thank you. Just needed to know if there was something he would work on among other things. I have 2 kids with him. The youngest barely turned 3. If he's cheating, he probably, tigers don't change their stripes. And like with a narcissist, like whatever personality they have and the things that they're doing, that is a part of that character. There are some that do not cheat, but never have cheated, and there are some that cheat and always have cheated, And so if he's a cheater, tigers don't change their stripes. That's a part of that personality. That is who he is. Let's see. Let's see. I think it's normal to be competitive when you're a kid because you try to establish a pecking order, right, on the playground or on a team or on the playground. Right, exactly. Right. So some behavior is natural development for a child. And so a lot of times now that we're older and we're learning things, we kind of look at kids like, oh my God, they're narcissists. No, that's why they're not diagnosed with that disorder at a young age, because like you said, a lot of that is kind of normal development, normal competition. A child is usually competing with a parent for control, power and control, but there are signs. Maybe that's something I'll talk about next time I come. That one I may have to take notes on and talk about it. But Mr. Norman, I may even like talk about that, the next time, like some things that are kind of normal in the development versus abnormal in the development of a child. But they are getting younger where they're starting to see more real narcissist traits and being able to diagnose. But according to the DSM-5, they're still not diagnosing at a young age because a lot of that is still mixed up with normal development. That's pretty normal development for a child. Let's see. Tori said, but no matter what is going to be your fault in their eyes. Absolutely. It's never their fault. They don't take accountability. They don't take responsibility. Anything that happens to them, even when they make choices, narcissists can make choices over and over and over again. And you tell them what the outcome is going to be. And then what happens is when they are living the consequences of their choices, the sad part about it is woe is me and nobody cares. And you really do feel sorry for them. But the more you catch them, the more they're going to keep doing the exact same thing over and over again. So they never take accountability or responsibility, but it's never their fault. They sabotage themselves. They do what they want to do, and they can't handle the consequences. And then when the consequences come, it hurts everybody around them because it really breaks your heart to see them go through these consequences. But you already know, as soon as you help them, they're going to do the exact same thing. I don't know if you guys have seen this little, I don't know, it was a Facebook post, and it shows a sheep that got stuck upside down in this like little crack in the ground. The sheep was stuck upside down. The shepherd came and pulled the sheep out of that hole, had to yank him out of that hole. He jumped and jumped and jumped right back in the hole. I'm like, how dumb can you be? But that's exactly how some people are concerning their kids. You're going to keep pulling them out the hole, they're going to keep jumping in the hole. And you're exhausted and angry because they keep jumping back in the hole. Sometimes they have to bump their head and you got to back up. And it's a very painful thing, but they're not going to take responsibility or accountability. It's always going to be somebody else's fault. It'll never be their fault at the consequences of their own decisions. Leilani said, thank you. I'll now be aware of his false promises. Much appreciated. Please go and watch some of my videos. Go watch some of my videos. Oh, they're going to love bomb you and they're going to hoover you back into place. Because if he is the inkling that you might leave, he's going to go back to the golden ages. He's going to hoover you. He's going to give you what you desire. It's going to feel so good where you're going to be like, I'm staying and I'm going to make this work. But the sad part about it is just that. It's a lie. It's a lie. That's unfortunate. Let's see. Let's see. The free from consulate. Ma'am, please, what do you think will keep making my father go back to his narcissistic wife of 28 years? She discarded him several weeks ago for several weeks, and he keeps going back. It's shocking. I need you to go back and listen to this video. I need you to go back and listen to my live. Everything that you're asking me is everything that I just got through talking about on this video. So please take the opportunity when I end the live, go back and listen to it again, because that question I answered when I did the live. So when I was doing this, I answered that question. If you listen to it, I'm gonna answer your question in the video when it goes back on replay, okay? All righty, let me see. All righty, let's see. All righty, y'all. Well, you are so welcome. And I didn't mean that in a disrespectful way, the free from consulate, but the whole video that I did tonight, the whole live that I did tonight was actually addressing exactly what you were asking me. And you have to go back to the beginning and just watch it. And I actually answered your question in it, and you'll see why, because he's trauma bonded. That's why he's trauma bonded. And 28 years, that's a long time to be trauma bonded to someone. But go and listen to the beginning of the video, and it's going to answer all your questions. Well, all right. I know they let me go past 5 minutes. They didn't even give me no time, because I know they're thinking like I'm not going to say nothing, you know. Okay. Thank you so much. Is the free from consulate? Oh yeah, I answered everything that you were just asking me. I just answered it in the video, but go back and listen. And then once you start hearing what I was talking about, it'll register like I get it now. But thank you so much. Oh, Danielle, no, she didn't. She had excellent teaching. You're a minister at heart. So 3 closings are in order. Thank you for all you do for our healing process. You know, we already know how this goes. Well, y'all too. I'm going to let y'all go now. Thank you guys so much for being here. My 2 moderators over here are messing with me. So I'm going to let them go because they sound very tired. They're very tired. So I'm going to let them go. This is my 4th closing. But thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Like I said, I'm just fixing up some. Do I think a therapist can be a narcissist? Absolutely. My other daughter just asked me the exact same question. Absolutely, absolutely. Narcissists can be in any field. The legal system, mental health, medical. You'll find them in the medical, anywhere. Good night, Dad. But thank you guys so much for being here. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Peace and Reasons. I hope that answered your question. And I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me. And like I promised, the Institute is coming. I'm excited about it because the more you guys talk, the more it lets me know I'm on track. And I'm going to get that first module out. It's just, you know, I thought I was going to get it out faster, and I would have had I not had something else right in front of that. So I kind of had to prioritize. So I should have this done within the next week. And then once I get this done in the next week, my whole focus on getting that first module out so that when you guys are doing that first module, I can work on that second module. But I am going to do a free webinar to explain to everyone what I'm going to be offering and to give you an opportunity to sign up for it. I am Beautiful 1216. Who are you? Because I know that name. I'm trying to think, who are you? That's not Bridget, is it? Who are you? I am Beautiful 1216. But I hope each one of you have a wonderful evening. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Once again, thank you guys so much for supporting me. And you know what, Danielle. But I appreciate you guys. You guys have a nice evening, okay? Good night, everybody. And make sure you follow me on YouTube. Barbette, I knew it. I knew it because I recognize that pretty dress. I can't see the dress up close, but I said, I know that dress because I like that dress. Good to see you, Barbette. But I hope you guys make sure you follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I appreciate you all. You guys have a wonderful evening. Good night, Facebook. Good night, Instagram. You guys have a great evening. Good night, YouTube. You guys have a great evening. And thank you guys, Danielle, Just Be Real. Thank you so much for always being there for me. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And I'm going to make sure I compensate you guys. I'm going to make sure I compensate you. Just give me a minute and we're going to make sure we take care of you. Good night. Good night, Dr. Hooper. I hope you have a great evening and a great week. Good night, everybody.